This is Tony, and this is, well, you're not the owner of this car,
No,
right?
I take care of it. I take care of 100 cars that the owner has.
Oh, okay. This is a 1929 Duesenberg.
Yes.
And the cool thing is, all original car. Look at this, has not been restored. Wonderful patina on this car. This is what it would have looked like if you bought it back in 1938 or 1940 after being 8 or 9 years old.
This was originally owned by a woman.
Yeah.
And she owned it for a year.
Yeah.
And it moved around, but then it went to a family in New York and they owned it for 50 years.
Wow.
The motor was rebuilt in 75.
Oh, okay.
I have all the invoices and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Invoices
but the body hasn't been touched, huh?
No, hasn't
Yeah.
been touched.
Again, another Murphy car. It has the Murphy signature deal here with the, like we just saw on the other car. See, the window comes up and then this closes off. That's original paint too, isn't it?
It's original paint, yeah. It's
Wow.
down to the metal there, yeah. I did replace the tyres, but I was able to take the original wear out the old tyres and put them in here. We have a special process that I developed.
Yeah, I see how that works. Yeah, yeah. As you can see, it's on the original ones.
Yeah. And I was actually laying underneath the thing yesterday, and there's absolutely no rust anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just absolutely amazing.
Well, you know,
considering it stayed in New York, you think with the dampness there, it would have got some sort of cancer.
Well, the chassis in this car weighs 4,400 pounds.
Yeah.
It's so massively strong, so any rust, that's the original seat, huh?
Original seat, and these lights work too.
But if this was 1952, this is what a Duesenberg would look like after a lot of use by an owner. How many miles on the car? Any idea?
It says 23,000.
Wow.
I wouldn't imagine that.
No, it could be 123 though, couldn't
Probably
it?
123, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it drives. Like I say, we have a 33, just a fully restored car.
Yeah.
And this drives so much better.
Yeah, there's nothing drives like original.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is nice. Beautiful, beautiful car. Again, another Murphy car done here in Pasadena.
1935 Auburn 851 Boattail Speedster. It's one of two cars we actually just had done. We just had a 36 852 done as well.
I remember they made a 12-cylinder version as well.
Yes.
And these were pretty reasonably priced. They were not inexpensive, but they weren't as expensive as Duesenbergs or some of those cars.
Right.
This was what they call a real CADS car. This was kind of it wasn't really a sports car, but it was a sporty car. Big 8-cylinder engine. There were so many bad replicas of these done in fiberglass that, you know, people don't appreciate. When you see a real one, you go, hey, is that a real one?
Like the Cobra,
yeah, because the other ones, the replicas are just a little bit off,
exactly,
you know. But this one is, you guys just finished this one Tuesday, right?
Yeah. It's just arrived to California from Wisconsin.
And you can see, well, the oddball, this really wasn't meant to have a top. It's really meant to be an open car.
Kind of claustrophobic
inside
there.
It looks a little goofy. It looks like you're wearing a bad hat. But just what a wonderful roadster. Look at this little Art Deco touch here.
You see the texture of the leather?
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. You notice almost every other car that we've stood next to, the roof is as high as I am. Look how low this is. Imagine this back in 1930, slinking down the road with front-wheel drive. And actually, the front-wheel drive was not that great back in this particular model.
Crude, yeah.
Because when you go up a hill, the front wheels would actually slip, especially in rain or snow, because all the weight was on the back. It was too far forward.
Yeah.
But design-wise, they were just beautiful. And are these Ruxton headlights?
Wool lights.
Wool lights. That's what they are. Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like I know it looks like the Alien movie, but they're actually very cool. I mean, style-wise, this was one of the most beautiful American cars. You know, the Europeans went nuts for the Cord back in 1930.
Oh, absolutely,
I think they won all the, Concord to Elegances.
Front-wheel drive. Many cars more. You know, we didn't, America really didn't take the front-wheel drive.
No, nicely done. Wow, look at this. What a beautiful restoration. Come look at this dashboard, this Art Deco dashboard. And of course, the rumble seat. Can't put kids back there now, you go to prison, but back in the day, probably one of the oddest gear shifts you'll ever see.
Oh, they stole that from a Renault, a Renault 5.
Yeah, look at that. Look how it sticks right out of the dashboard. What is it? You pull it out, then you turn it to the left, turn it to the right. Is that what it is?
Yeah, reverse is actually where reverse is. So it's kind of confusing, actually.
Yeah, you want to go back, pull it back. Want to go forward, push it forward. There you go. Right. These were a nice 45-mile-an-hour car. Right. Yeah, anything above that starts to get a little dicey.
Yeah.
I know that sounds ridiculously slow, but don't forget the speed limit was 30, 40 back in the day.
Hello there, you got a cup of tea for me?
I'm here with Tony Rackley. And how'd you get involved with cars, Tony?
It's in my blood. I've been around cars all my life. I'm from London,
And basically I came to California because of the American dream, but also this is the car capital of the world. So if you want to be into cars, no greater place.
And what are you doing now?
I take care of a collection for a European chap. The collection's based here in Los Angeles. We're upwards of about 100 cars right now. Predominantly American cars. We have a couple of European cars, but predominantly American, pre-war, and we do 50s, Buicks, Chryslers, Corvettes, and various, like I mentioned, pre-war cars.
Can you talk about the car that we brought today?
Today I bought a 1937 Cord, 812 Cord, and it's a front-wheel drive car. It was a design that Gordon Buick designed. He was going to do a baby Duesenberg, which never came into play, but when he was asked to do this design, he bought some of the design features he had for the baby Duesenberg. It's a front-wheel drive car, very rare. Cord was one of the first mass production cars to go into front-wheel drive. This was the last car they built. Another one great feature, it's got retracting headlights. They are hand cranked from each side of the dashboard, and it has external exhaust pipes and a pre-select transmission, which means that you would engage the gear prior to actually hitting the clutch, and then it would drive like that. It's kind of like electronic magnetic situation, and it works very well. It's a flathead V8 with these external exhausts. This is an 812 version. The car prior to this, the 36, is an 810, and it didn't have the external exhausts. And the story goes that one of the design guys added these without EL Cord's authorization, and when he first saw it, he was a little mad that it was done without his authorization, but he actually liked the improvement, so he let it actually go. We can see on this interior that the gear selection mechanism is this little lever here, and basically it's pre-select. So while the car is idling, foot off the clutch, you can put it into first. The moment you put it into the foot on the clutch, it will engage the gear, and you can pull away in first, you put it in the second, drive along. When you're going to get in the second gear, you put your foot on the clutch and it engages the gear. Very, very simple. You can see it has a beautiful engine turn dash, and it has a working radio, but it only gets old radios for some bizarre reason. And it's just very functional. All big gauges, the oil pressure, one of the largest oil pressure gauge I've ever seen in a car. But you want to know that your pressure is good. So very beautiful interior. And one of the big features of this car is the teardrop fenders. They came back into a point. It's just beautiful. It's actually just a rolling sculpture. It's just a work of art. It's one of my favorite cars in the whole collection, just the way it looks. It's just sexy as hell. Okay, this is one of the first cars to actually feature a full trunk. Most of the cars of that period were running trunks on a frame on the back of the vehicle. So this was a very modern car relative to what was available at the time. It was actually kind of very futuristic. And I just couldn't imagine what it would have been like to have seen one of these for the first time driving down the road. You probably would have thought you had been abducted by aliens or something, because it was really nothing compared to this look at that time.
We're back with Tony Rackley, and you brought another car to the Concours today. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it's a 1953 Corvette. 1953 is the first year the Corvettes were made. This is actually the 60th anniversary of Corvette. That's what we're celebrating here today at Greystone. And we bought one of our cars. We actually have two Corvettes, 53s. This one's number 33, and we also have number 32.
Wow.
And we just purchased actually 2013 number 33 60th anniversary edition Corvette. So we're going to have them side by side.
Oh,
but this very interesting car. It was one of only 300 built. If you can believe it, they couldn't sell them originally. They wasn't taken to. It was a small, at that time people were driving big American Yank tanks. So this, a little European style go fast sports car wasn't very appealing. So it took a little while to take off, but obviously, as we know today, it took off very well.
Very well.
Very well indeed. So, as I say, this is number 33. They're only available in polo white, and I believe that I reckon there's about 225 left out of the 300 originally built. So they're quite a valuable car today. Yeah.
Will you give us a closer up look?
Absolutely, be happy to do so. And here is our 1953 Corvette. It's number 33 out of 300 total built. As you can see, it's a very beautiful car. It's actually made of fiberglass, one of the very first mass-produced fiberglass cars ever built. And even to this day, Corvettes are still made by fiberglass. You can see it's beautiful chrome, which was the flavor of the 1950s. Little chrome bumpers, which I wouldn't imagine would do much today if you were in an accident. But just a beautiful car all around. Okay, with the styling with this car, in the 50s, everything was about planes and jets and rockets. So you'll find a lot of features that are very kind of aero. This looks like a wing, and the way the trim goes down the back. One of the telltale signs you can tell all early Corvettes were 6 cylinders. 53 and 54 are 6 cylinders. 55 they made the conversion to V8. The way you tell for a V8 is on the Chevrolet badge here. You'd have a gold V that would denote a V8. So very difficult to tell them apart unless you knew them details. Another thing is that earlier hubcaps were slightly different. Very valuable, almost impossible to find today. Same with the gas cap today. I'd just been told by somebody that these gas caps, original gas cap which this car has, can be upwards of $500 to locate if you were ever able to locate one. Only available in white with red interior. In 54 you got a couple of other options, red, blue and black, but 53 only available in white. And here we have a straight 6. It's a 235 cubic inch, making 150 horsepower. The early cars were 150 and then they later went to 155 horsepower. But it's a triple Carter side draft setup, and they're very notorious for loading up, becoming very rich, and when you turn them off, the carbs seem to leak gas. And when I looked online this week, that turned to be a very common fault, but I was able to fix it this week, so no more gas leakage for me. And on the interior, they were only available in red at that time, and only 2 options. That was the self-seeking radio and heater. This has only 123 miles on it since its restoration, probably over 10 years ago, and it still looks today like new. As I mentioned earlier, the features of the airplane, they got the wings here and the jet-like tail lights. And one of the distinctive things you can tell between an early car and a late car is all the early cars had short, stubby tailpipes, which actually made this whole black area black with soot. So when the cars, I think it was the following year, they made a much longer tailpipe, and that's one of the ways you can tell the difference at the back.
I'm here with Tony Rackley. And what did you bring to the Concours today? There's always a story with every car you
Today
bring.
we bought our 1933 Duesenberg Model J Rolston Torpedo Victoria, and it was built in 1933. It was ordered by a chap called E.T. Foley, who was very instrumental in America's highways and bridges and railways, and he ordered the car. Duesenberg was involved in the design of the car, went to Rolston in New York for its manufacture, and then E.T. Foley had it he was in Minnesota for a while, and then he came out to California, and he was here for a couple of years, and then he sold the car to Hopalong Cassidy. So when it was
Hopalong Cassidy, wow.
Yeah, William Boyd. And apparently he had a trailer for the car. The car at the time was red, and it had flared fenders, and it had the hub caps and a few other different things.
Well, can we have a closer up look?
And here's some of the features on our 1933 Duesenberg. Firstly, right from the very start, you see the front. It has what's called a moustache front bumper system. It looks, very similar to a moustache. And then coming back, we have the Pilot Ray turning lights. They actually turn with the steering, so when you went around the corner, they showed around the corner. And then the massive headlights, and then the grille. And these louvers are thermostatically controlled, so they would open when the engine got hot. And on the hood, we have what's called the Duesenberg. It was designed by one of the Duesenberg brothers. And the heart of the Duesenberg is the engine. 420 cubic inches, 265 brake horsepower, which at the time was 100 horsepower more than any other car. Duesenberg was the first company in America to actually incorporate a straight 8 engine into a car. And as you can see, it's like a work of art. Okay, one of the unique features with our particular car is it's one of the only known Duesenbergs to have a double belt line. So you can see here, the belt line here goes along across the hood. The belt line comes down and ends at the tail here. As I mentioned before, this car is called a Torpedo Victoria. The Victoria part is the fact that the rear passengers do not have any vision from the sides. It's a blind rear quarter. That's the Victoria part. The Torpedo part is the protrusion at the back. It's the large trunk. This actually has an inbuilt trunk, which was rare for that era. The unique feature of this car, it actually has windshields in the seats so the people in the back could have wind deflection. Okay, one of the unique features of this particular car is it has freewheeling. It was known to only have been fitted to 3 Duesenbergs. This is the only one known to exist. And what it does is once engaged, when you take your foot off the gas, it would actually be freewheeling and you wouldn't be driving the engine, so it would save gas. It was something that was very uncommon on an expensive car. You'd find it on a cheap car for them trying to save gas. Another feature is it has adjustable suspension. It's the only one known to exist. Also, another feature is it has adjustable brakes, which is one of 3 cars known to exist. And one of the other unique features with this particular car is it actually has a disappearing top. But what's unique about it is the fact that with this hole and this handle, one actually cranked the roof back. When you first purchased a Duesenberg back in the 1930s, what you actually purchased was the chassis and the engine and the grille and the fenders, which was $8,500. Then you went up to a coach built company and they would build you a car. This was Ralston, which was one of the high-end companies at the time. Ralston name actually was cheekily stolen from Rolls-Royce. They would later change the name to Ralston. This car, built in New York, high-dollar car, time new, it was $19,000. There's one other famous Ralston-bodied car, and that's known as 20 grand. So this one was $1,000 cheaper, so I can afford to take some people to lunch if they'd like to go.
I'm here with Tony Rackley. It's good to see you again, Tony.
Always a pleasure, Betty. Always a pleasure. My pleasure, love.
And you brought cars from what collection?
From the A&A Premier Classics collection out of Riverside.
And what did you bring today?
Today I bought 2 cars. First car I bought is this 1963 AC Cobra, Shelby AC Cobra. And it's a very interesting car. It's serial number CXX 2044.
Okay, and what else did you bring?
I bought a 1969 Boss 429.
All right,
Mustang,
all right.
yeah, it's some big. So I bought some big power today.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Normally I bring some pre-war stuff, which is a bit, archaic and slow and cumbersome, but these cars get up and go. So I made some noise today.
Okay, all right. Oh, can we look at the Cobra first?
Absolutely. And this is CSX 2044. This car was originally purchased by a chap called Dr. Harrison Hap Horn, and we actually have the letter that he sent to Carroll Shelby dated March 17th inquiring about this particular car. And back in March of 1963 nobody knew about these cars, so for someone to actually inquire, I'm sure Shelby was impressed. So this car is the very first car with a 289 engine. The first 74 cars were 260s, but VIN number 2044, 45 and 46 were special order 289s, and this is 44. And originally it was $59.95, but with all the extras that the Hap ordered, it came up to $69.95. And some of the features included inertia seat belts and also a full roll bar. Okay, let me introduce you to this monster engine for 1963. It's a 289, 271 horsepower. And for a light car like this, it really gets up and goes. Okay, and as you can see on this car, the interior is still original. Dr. Horn owned this car, as I mentioned before, from May 21st is when he took delivery, 1963, up until 1991. It basically broke an exhaust 32 years prior to that, and it sat in the garage for all its time. A chap called Lynn Park, a noted Cobra collector, bought the car from the owner, and the owner would only sell it to him if he knew he was the right guy. He didn't want to pass this car on just to anybody. He wanted someone to appreciate it as he did for the many years that he owned it, and Lynn Park was just that such chap. And Lynn had the car repainted but left the interior original, as you can see, and it's got a beautiful patina to it. This car originally is a British car, so you can see the gauges are all British. They're Smith's gauges, and this car obviously started life as an AC Ace with very meager power, and then when Carroll Shelby came along and put the Ford V8 in it, he really created a monster, and you know, a noted car that everybody sees. Whenever they see it, they know it's a Cobra. Hi, and this is our 1969 Mustang Boss 429. It's one of the early cars built. It was one of the first 50 which were known as priority cars. They were brought out in a rush to get on to people to see them. It has a monster 429 engine that was a NASCAR motor that they developed, and they had to put them in street cars. So this is what happened. This is how this car became about. This is the 429 NASCAR motor. It's 375 horsepower, just a beast of a motor. As you can see, there's hardly any room around either side. Okay, the interior is finished in black vinyl, and pretty much the stock Mustang interior with the wood trim and the gauge package. This thing really got up and going. It's a 4-speed Muncie. It's a bit of a handful. It's really loud, as you could imagine with a motor this size, and fun to drive, Just like my nan used to make.